Greetings, dear friends. We're sincerely glad to welcome you again, and today we're going to talk with the esteemed Igor Mikhailovich Danilov.
Greetings.
Igor Mikhailovich, thank you very much for such an inspiring conversation about how not to give up, how not to despair, and how sometimes a lemon can be turned into the most excellent lemonade. We're also sincerely happy about this fundamental discovery which you described in the previous video, thanks to which both the creation of a shield that will protect us from external cosmic influence and technologies such as the replicator and the health capsule have actually become much closer to us, significantly closer. Like you said, it's not science fiction, it's not somewhere out there beyond the horizon, but it is much closer than the horizon. And if we manage to find a way and build a creative society, these technologies can easily be put on the rails of the creative society. And you know, Igor Mikhailovich, this is so inspiring, both that we can save lives and that we can live in such a beautiful world where these technologies will be available. However, another interesting question has arisen. What if our humanity chooses an alternative way of coping with climate disasters? I'm now talking about the idea of establishing a unified scientific center while basically maintaining the consumerist format. Will these technologies then be available to people, and in general, what will the world be like? For example, we stabilize the core, restore the function of the ocean, and our air conditioner starts working. But what's next? What might the world be like afterwards?
It's a good question. I'll put it as follows. Everything depends on people anyway. Let's say the option suggested by Egon Chalakian may be a forerunner of the creative society. People will see what unification gives. People will stop being divided, because this is one of the conditions and nothing will work out otherwise. It's impossible to preserve hatred towards each other. In a divided economy, it's impossible to establish a unified scientific center which the entire world will have to finance and maintain. This is indeed true. Moreover, no matter what we do and how much we want it to be otherwise, there will be forced migration of huge masses of people. If we do not prepare for that, there will be trouble. If we start preparing for that, according to Dr. Chalakian's proposal, it is still a unification of people. It's already closer to one united civilization. We can say that we thus make one step into the creative society. Well, if people taste this fruit of unity and gain more freedoms, maybe they will want the creative society, maybe. But, in any case, we won't find this out. I mean, the current generation, what our civilization will come to in the future will be discovered and seen by other generations who will follow us. Not one generation, but several generations. This is really so. Why? Because it will take a lot of time before people decide whether to build a creative society or not. To be honest, what I see is that even if, by preserving the consumerist format, we come to some kind of international consensus and actually decide to give people freedom to open borders, to create a unified, controllable economy, everything as it should be, and of course to establish a unified scientific center, if everything works out for us, if we manage to create the shield and resuscitate the ocean, and if everything is timely, you know, I'm 99.9% sure that a little time will pass, not in ours, but most likely in subsequent generations, and there will appear politicians who will bring the world back to the same state where we are now. Eventually, sooner or later, we, the ones who fought for the unity of all humankind, those who fought against our common enemy, will again become enemies to each other, for the sake and in the interests of certain groups, financial groups, political groups, and in the end we will either destroy ourselves with our old and reliable nuclear arsenal, or we will invent something new. However, will we get new technologies in the preserved consumerist format? Of course not. Definitely not, friends. It's unrealistic, and even if we get some crumbs from the opportunities that can be implemented in the creative society, they will still be subject to payment. Yes, FFGs may appear in our world just like they are available now. For instance, an American company produces them, but people who use those FFGs pay for electricity. That's the whole answer. The same issue may arise with that very replicator. Yes, maybe you will have some kind of device, but prices will be like in a restaurant. What for? So that you don't compete with the powers that be, you see? Wherever there is money and wherever there is power, there will be no freedom and no common goal. People will be divided by numerous ideas and multiple goals. That's normal, that's a natural manifestation in the consumerist format.
It's not beneficial to rulers for people to live in prosperity, right?
The point here is not about prosperity, it's about the very existence of humanity and the very formula of the consumerist format. It cannot exist other than by dividing the masses of people and occasionally pitting them against each other. Otherwise, the institution of power simply cannot survive. It rests on the fears of people who trust that authorities will help protect and save them. Authorities change while the principle remains. This formula has been used over the past 6,000 years, and it is still relevant, because we are in the consumerist format. That's normal. In the creative society, we will obviously have everything, even what we cannot dream of now. But there is a more interesting point. Look, if we create a consumerist format, for example, even if it is reformed, even if it is more humane, we still won't have a common goal. We will have a temporary goal to survive. Okay, we have survived. What's next? Next, money will still dominate our minds. We will still be trying to make as much money as possible, isn't it so? And then it'll all start again. We will still become divided. We won't hold as a civilization, unless we again choose the future way of development as the creative society or whatever it may be named. Well, if we have enough intelligence to come to this understanding, then yes, there will be a chance.
So basically, it's very important that
Of course.
creative society gives this common goal, right?
It gives not only a common goal, but also unity of people, unity in a common goal. This common goal that unites all people means the improvement of the quality of life and the development of the whole society. These are new opportunities for each and everyone. This is what is indeed aimed at human life. After all, the highest value would be human life, and thus the quality of human existence. This speaks volumes.
As you once said, this very point B already appears for society to which it aspires.
Of course, that's right. So if we create one united civilization, we become an integral unit. It already means one united egregore, so to say. If we have a goal, then point B appears, and therefore we have a purpose and possibilities of where to go. It means that we will have a new energy, additional and united one. That's why the development is inevitable, no matter how you twist it. Whereas in the consumerist format, we have a fragmented idea. We don't have one united egregore. Larger egregores begin to dominate over smaller ones, but still everything is being fragmented, and the larger egregore will be fragmented into multitude of its own egregores anyway. Let's take any country, no matter how powerful it is. There is one idea: to become the richest, to become technologically advanced, independent and dominant. One idea, yet there are a lot of internal divisions, right? In other words, there are different parties, different business groups, and different interests of people, and still it is not a united but a fractured egregore.
Yes, exactly.
And it can't last long. It is doomed to exist for a very short time. If we look, empires existed on average for 200 years, more or less.
Yes, they all fell into decline.
Of course. Let's take even the Knights Templar, 200 years. Like I say, it falls within this period approximately. Cycles. Cycles rule everything. In economics, there are cycles too. Or whatever we look at. Like those very empires. And history repeats itself. Everything develops in a spiral pattern. Yes, it may be different people and a different situation, but if you remove all these trifles that make them different, the essence remains the same. That's how it happens. Again, if we look at the development of humankind, at the cycle, what is it and what does it give? We already explained, and I think more than once, that the cycle means additional energy, and we see that there is too much of it not only on our planet, but also on other planets of the solar system. In other words, it is definitely an increase in energy, kind of an increase in internal potential, which affects everything external. It's clear, in other words, it's like a restart. It's like you refuel a car and it gets new capabilities. Well, it's a rough comparison, but approximately like that. It turns out we have a divided community, we have a dead ocean, and therefore such a result. After all, excuse me, our planet has gone through multiple cycles. Yes, there was suffering, yes, there were problems, it's inevitable, but nonetheless, people survived, didn't they? They did. Whereas we are in a critical situation, I mean, we haven't yet entered the beginning of the active phase of the cycle. Well, the situation is as if we were already in the cycle, meaning all these manifestations. Why? Exchange. This energy which is there, we have already explained a lot regarding it, and won't repeat this, but this energy becomes excessive. Due to entropy, it turns into heat, hence a lot of different changes and disruptions. However, if the ocean were alive, this would not happen, you see. There are many factors. Well, this is precisely the anthropogenic factor. In other words, we ourselves have destroyed our future. Again, if we look in the first millennium, when a cycle starts, there is a huge acceleration. Then, let's say, everything goes more evenly. Such a period of stability, and then a decline begins. It starts approximately 2000 years before the end of the cycle, although the decline starts somewhere in the middle of the term, when this acceleration energy ends. Inertia begins to decrease, and in the middle of the term, it all starts to change. What do we see 6,000 years ago? Clearly and obviously, the consumerist format began. Everything happens according to the program, no matter how you twist it, whereas the last couple of thousand years, it's already a total breakdown. In other words, it's a downward curve. Precisely in this interval we see that Jesus Christ and the Prophet Muhammad came. What did they talk about? If we remove all the religious sham, just nonsense contrived and imposed by people, we will see that both Jesus Christ and Prophet Muhammad told us simple, banal truths, from individual aspects to general ones. After all, it's true. Regarding individual aspects, they described how a person can reach the spiritual world. They said that there are no mediators. These are simple, understandable truths, that one can come to God only through love and mutual respect of each and every one. As for general aspects, they said that we can survive only if we become one united civilization, if everything superfluous is removed. In other words, it implies building the creative society if we speak in modern terms, for those who understand what the creative society is. After all, if we look at what they spoke about and what they taught, that's exactly the way it is. Were they running around with sensors, I don't know, beating the tambourines or dancing? There was no foolishness of this kind. Were they mumbling any mantras, prayers, or anything else from morning to evening? No, there was a simple appeal. But the main thing was the inner, spiritual work, that which they taught. Right? Right. This is individual work. No one, no priest will do it for you. No one will be able to lead you into the heavenly gate, except yourself. That's what they spoke about. Let's take the words of Jesus Christ. He clearly said that God's temple is within you, and if you don't build it in yourself, nothing will work out. No matter what kind of stone palaces you erect, no matter how you decorate them, and no matter what you do there, all this is meaningless, right? This is at the individual level, while in general they said that all of us should be brothers, all of us should, let's say, respect and love each other, meaning there should be one united civilization. Then everything will be revealed and everything will be available. There is no other way.
This is very interesting. So they came here precisely during the period of decay, of decline.
Of decline. Yes, when a decline started. Let's look at what has happened over the last 2000 years.
In society.
Have we improved as human beings, or have we aggravated the entire situation? Of course we have aggravated it. Has anyone abolished slavery? No, it has become more sophisticated. People are manipulated just as they always were. Yes, some illusory freedoms have appeared somewhere, but are they greater than in the past? Let's look at the times of Jesus Christ. The Roman law. There was a powerful state, the Roman Empire, right? They conquered many lands and ruled many nations. What rights did a Roman citizen have? What freedoms did he have? Can they be compared even with the current freedoms of Americans? It is believed that Americans have the greatest number of freedoms and rights, isn't it? Not to mention the rest of the countries. There's the answer for you. Have we improved the situation or made it worse? Of course we have made it worse.
You know, Igor Mikhailovich, many people also notice that the speed of these negative events and sort of moral decay is so fast that they don't have time to react. They don't actually have time to even register what is happening in society. What is the reason for that today? Is it also due to a period of this decay or...
Well, this is natural. I mean, it's a process. No matter how we twist it or what we do, no matter how much we want to get rid of it, if we don't change ourselves, if we don't change our consumerist format, at least according to Dr. Chalakian's proposal, this won't stop. We will roll down into decline. Thank God we won't roll far. Climate Cerberus is already in the world, so it will stop this ball very quickly and tear it apart in a second. And everyone already understands this very well. If we look at climate events that are taking place today, excuse me, it's already clear, even to the stupidest people, that the world is on the verge, that something has to be done. Well, the only thing we can do is try to save ourselves and all of humanity. There's no other option. Otherwise, yes, in our society, moral decay will still continue increasing for some time, as well as everything else. The laws will be made more strict, we've already discussed that. The consumerist format is the consumerist format, it will defend itself in order to keep at least a little bit of power. If they don't listen to Mr. Chalakian's words, I'm not even talking about us, hardly anyone will hear us, then everything that will be done will be directed against people towards suppression of their freedoms. First of all, the right to speak, to listen and to be heard. Why? Because it is destabilizing, it creates tension. And it is clear that authorities cannot counter the climate Cerberus. I mean, authorities in the global sense of the word. The authorities of any country are unable to combat the Cerberus in any way, these climate changes that are taking place. And if they are unable to combat, real climate events, they will combat people. They will tell false fairy tales, they'll give hope for tomorrow that everything will get better, while they themselves will try to survive and look for places where they, their families and their entourage will be able to survive longer than us. It's all very simple, humanity has already been through all this many times. What will it end up with? With nothing. Just like Mars. No bunker will help.
Many people have noticed that even now, in connection with these cataclysms, there is such a re-evaluation of people's values that the climate actually makes us think about whether we are living right and if that's where we need to go. And it turns out that people are still somehow forced to consolidate and unite before this disaster. The question is, do we still have time?
Well, so far, I don't see any unification of people, I don't see any consolidation of society. Yes, there are our friends, volunteers, again, why? Because they have enough intelligence, because they are indeed smart and decent people. They study the problem, they see it, they compare facts, especially over so many years. So naturally, they understand what the cause is and they see the confirmations. As for other people, I'm sorry, let's look at it honestly. Today, they've been battered by a storm, for example. It's a misfortune. Their homes have been destroyed. Okay, they have rebuilt the houses. And what happens again? They live as they used to live. The trouble is over. Such things happen. A storm comes again, and the same thing happens again. Do you know when the awakening will start? When they haven't had time to clean up the consequences of the previous storm and another storm comes, or the mixes of climate events come, which are already starting to occur. Not only is there a storm, but also an earthquake, and then there's flooding. So when this whole situation starts to develop more rapidly, then people will understand that something has to be done. But what will we be able to do then? You see, I'll put it simply, the problem today is in people's intellectual development and their conscience. And most importantly, their courage. In other words, do they have enough courage to look at the current situation in the world sensibly and honestly? Do they have enough conscience to understand that not only other people, but they themselves are also in trouble? Do they have enough humanness to unite, to start our entire history with a clean slate, to forget everything that divided us, to simply forget that, and start living the way we should have already been living for 2000 years? It's the only option, and it's the right option. What does it give? Let's take a look. Right now, yes, excessive energy is coming, it is killing us. But thanks to common sense and humanness, if we manage to unite and really start our unification, not around preserving the consumerist format, but in developing the creative society. If we really save our planet and build this shield, we will survive and get a lot of other technologies. And even our generation will be able to prolong its life to at least 1500 years. These are not fairy tales. These are scientific achievements of today. It's just that many people don't know about it. It is not written on Wikipedia, and you cannot find everything on Google. That's my response to those fellows who check all the information on Wikipedia, but it's not written there. Meanwhile, if you delve into this issue a little bit, you can find a lot of scientists who have actually achieved very good results. Plus, there are new technologies, so you can live 1500 years at the very least. And what does this give? When society is united and when the goal is defined, I'll put it simply, this generation of ours is able to reach the level of development as one united civilization, up to the 4th level. And this is fantastic. We cannot even imagine what kind of capabilities a civilization at the 4th level of development has. Yes, we won't be able to reach the 5th level. For the 5th level, we need to wait for the next cycle that will take place. If we live 1000 years and develop to the 4th level, then 11,000 years after our cycle, there will be the next cycle. Only then will we be able to enter the 5th level of our development. As for the 6th level,
We'll have to wait for a new impulse of life.
yes, and to attain the 6th level, we will need to wait for a 24,000-year cycle. Then we will be able to enter the 6th level of development. You see how simple everything is? And everything is fair and everything is right. What prospects do we have in reality? What can we gain and what can we lose? And we can lose it simply because of trite stupidity, laziness, and excuse me, mental deficiency of some individuals, or somebody's inhumaneness. After all, nothing stands in our way, except ourselves and our inhumaneness. This is really so. However, everything depends on people. If we find the strength to unite, if we find the strength to step over all the past, to give up what we soon won't have anyway, we will have opportunities, those that we never even dreamed of. This is much better than what even the most powerful people of this world have nowadays. Yes, they have authority, money and other things, but in no way will it give what the creative society can give them and their generation. Well,
It's very important now to make the right use of this impulse of life that is coming.
it is important. As for how we will act, that's already the question. Everything depends on people. There is a common problem and a common solution in this case. Everything depends on people. So friends, the main thing is not to give up, to see the goal and not to notice the obstacles, right? And everything will be fine. The chances are good. And that's the main thing. There is a chance indeed, and a good one. But for that we have to build the creative society. Then everything will be fine, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Igor Mikhailovich.
Thank you, friends. Peace be with you, and God's love.